The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the sketchy secondhand Frankenstein that you found in the carnival that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah, so this week, as we promised, we're doing another kind of kid-friendly movie from the 90s, Frankenstein and Me.
Kid-friendly, but not emotional-friendly.
Yeah, another one that's kind of a tearjerker. And I was thinking I had seen this, and if I have, it must have been so long ago that like I was surprised several times over. I did not know where this was going.
Yeah, I know for a fact that I've seen parts of this, but I have absolutely not seen the whole thing together, I think, until now.
Especially the scenes of them trick-or-treating. I think that gets memed a lot during Halloween because it is the most nostalgic suburban trick-or-treat footage. It's just beautiful.
Well, I mean, that's the whole E.T. thing, right? Mm-hmm. That was the E.T. Halloween scene. Everyone remembers that. It's like, oh, fuck, I remember when trick-or-treating was like that.
Yeah. It definitely. Yeah, I forgot about. Yeah, it's definitely a very similar vibe to that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But we've got some kind of big stars, at least, those that haven't already passed away, for frick's sake.
Yeah.
We've got Ryan Gosling playing a pretty pivotal part. He's the Clerval of this one, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah, kind of. He's sort of a minor character, but he's in it quite a bit. You have like the two brothers who are the main characters, and he's like their friend.
And then we've got Burt Reynolds.
Yeah,
the late great Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, who's the late great father in this, and he's it feels like they got hit. I think Ryan Gosling was probably not really a big name at the time. Like, I think this is probably
absolutely
when he was,
not.
Doing little TV show things and stuff. But Burt Reynolds,
yeah, he was still doing Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps at this time, I think.
Yeah, because some of this was shot in Canada, and he was definitely like a kid Canadian actor. Whereas like the Burt Reynolds stuff, like I feel like he already, obviously was a big name, and it looked to me like they got him for a day or two and shot all of his stuff.
Yeah.
But they used him really well. Like I really liked his character in this. But yeah, and then I think pretty much those are the only like name actors. Everything, or is there?
Well, that depends on what you're into. So if you're into One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, we have Nurse Ratched. AKA, what is her legal name?
Yes, the teacher. I recognized her. I was like, I know her from somewhere. So she just plays
incredibly shitty teacher.
Yeah, she just plays evil bitches and everything. I guess she's great at it. So good for her. Find a niche and stick with it.
Louise Fletcher.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, the late great Louise Fletcher.
Yeah. So are those the only ones that stuck out to you? I was gonna say, I think the two main character kids, I don't know that they've like done a lot.
No, I don't think they went anywhere really.
Yeah.
Or if they did, they were kind of one of those guys actors, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
In fact, I think this never has been released on DVD or Blu-ray as far as I know. I actually own a VHS copy that someone gave me as a gift. But you can also find it on like archive.org, but it's still the VHS rip. So you've got all the previews at the beginning and all of that stuff, which is, also nostalgic in its own way. But then once you get into the credits are kind of like, generic black screen, white text. But I did like the like movie logo, which is like Frankenstein in this like spooky gothic font. And then below it
with crayon and me, or
yeah, it's very Comic Sans, but yeah, it's like like written in. You see like the animation of it and everything.
By the way, can we give this movie only really needs, aside from like any emotional trauma, there literally is only one other like warning that I would give, and that is there is a French-ish guy from Quebec doing brownish face. He's portraying a Latin American, or Mexican, Texican sheriff. So,
yeah, I wasn't sure what his deal was. Yeah, like he seemed strange. Like but yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, and most of the scenes though, he is of his normal like coloration, and then like there's a couple scenes where they're like, oh no, we put extra foundation on this guy because his name's Gonzalez.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So once like that we get through the credits, like we get like one really quick establishing shot of like a really dry desert. We'll eventually be told that it's the Mojave Desert. And then we go straight.
We'll only see it in two scenes. Mm-hmm. Once at the beginning and once at the very end.
Yep. And then we go to like lightning flash. We have like a Gothic castle in a forest. And we get the first of what I think really gives this movie like its charm. We have like a science lab, all kind of, classic science gear. It's a full-on Frankenstein scene, but the mad scientist and the hunchback assistant are kids.
Definitely kids, like under the age of 12.
Yeah,
for sure.
And they're running around flipping switches. They look like they're having a great time because they're kids in a fucking mad science lab. It looks great.
Yeah, of course you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
But then there's like a older sister / fiance to the older kid banging on the door.
Yeah, it's the Elizabeth at the end of Bride of Frankenstein banging on the door, begging for them to come out. Finally, the kid Victor tells the kid Igor to let her in. And she's like, we mustn't tamper with these forces. And he's like, no, we have to for all mankind.
Right. What a rationalization, right?
Yeah. So
yes, my mad science is for all mankind.
Yeah. So we sort of get like a very abbreviated, Frankenstein, like a whole movie here at the, we have like, they raise the monster to the ceiling, lightning strikes, sparks are flying. And when he comes down, we don't really have like the hesitation we sometimes get. Like right away, the monster is moving.
It's alive.
Yeah, classic. It's alive. And then we just cut to footage of like a small town. And this is where we officially
desert, the 1970s specifically.
Yeah, Southern California, 1970.
Why 1970? Because it feels definitely like the 1990s since this came out. What, 96?
It's interesting because we just last week we watched The Iron Giant and it was the same thing where it was like it was made in the 90s but it's set in a time in the past. I feel like we nowadays we run into this a lot in Stephen King stuff. Like I feel like there's something about like if you set something in the past, there's already like a built-in nostalgia. And then when you revisit it later, there's like a double layer of nostalgia. This is why like everyone loves It. It's like, set back sort of two layers, especially with the adult story and then the kid's story and everything and the Stranger Things and all that. Like we just love that sort of like, it's just long ago enough that like we remember it, but we've kind of forgotten the bad stuff and it's just kind of all fondness and everything. I feel like
the adults can have rose-colored glasses, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, with Iron Giant, it was like the 50s, and here being the 70s. But yeah,
yeah.
And
well, you got to think at this time in the 1970s to the Gen X. That's who's making this movie, right? Mm-hmm. Gen X, and you've got a couple millennials in there. They're the kid actors, right?
Yeah.
But the people making the movie, for the most part, is Gen X.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would be for them.
So we find out we're at a school, and we see the kid who was Frankenstein in our previous scene now in just a regular classroom. We find out his name is Earl, and he is doodling this scene that we just saw play out. So this is a daydream, basically.
Right, and nurse/teacher Purdue is not having it. How dare you doodle in my class while I'm talking about hygiene for boys and girls?
Yeah, she ends up she takes his notebook away from him. She's like, you know what you have to do? And he's like, yes, I know. Like, clearly this is not the first time he's gotten in trouble for daydreaming in class. And so her punishment is very strange. Like, she draws a circle on the chalkboard, and he has to put his nose in it and just press his face up against the chalkboard for the rest of class.
I mean, it's standing in the corner, but more publicly, right? There's more like embarrassment baked into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there in the middle of class, everybody's looking at the chalkboard, and he's just there. So, yeah, it's public humiliation and ostracizing him and everything.
She's just trying to embarrass the shit out of the kid because that's how you had control back then, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Before our generation became honey badgers and said, fuck you. Embarrassment means nothing to us. We're going to dance on TikTok one day.
Right. So we cut straight from that to like after school. Earl is now playing with his little brother who was Igor earlier. His name's Larry. They're just kind of playing outside. They have like a weird mannequin thing that they're working on, but they get called.
That's pretty fucking creepy scarecrow.
Yeah. They get called inside for dinner, and as soon as they sit down and they're starting to eat, their mom gets a phone call. It's the teacher, telling her about Earl getting in trouble.
Right, he should have been raised to know better, is what the mom acquiesces, right? I feel like, is this healthy or very unhealthy that the teacher feels okay to call the mom? I feel like that should be healthy. But not what the teacher's saying.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think this used to be a little more common. Like teachers would be more like active with parents and stuff. I'm not. I think now it's most. I guess if the kid gets in enough trouble, they would reach out. But yeah, in this case, like you said, it's good that she's kind of setting up this rapport between mom and teacher so they can help the kid be better together. But in this case, it's bad because the teacher,
sucks.
Yeah, she sucks.
She sucks.
And I think the mom she's not sure how to handle this kid. Like he's an imaginative kid, but it gets him into trouble because he's kind of, his mind wanders and stuff. He's an ADHD kid pretty much, Yep.
And that's right, baby.
And she's having trouble with that. So she's pretty disappointed. She like kind of slops their food down on their plates. And then
very angry at him.
Yeah, and then their dad rolls in. And at first I was like, this must be a stepdad. He just gives off stepdad vibes. But no, he's just a cool...
With the black shirt with the cut off sleeves, hell yeah. With the tattoo with the dagger.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is stepdad energy for sure.
Yeah, but he is their dad. He's just a really cool dad.
And he's also Burt fucking Reynolds, baby.
Yeah. And he sits down and like has Earl say grace. And then the mom and the dad kind of are like talking about Earl right there in front of him, and she's like, I'm worried about his overactive imagination. Do something, say something, convince him that he needs to focus.
Right. And you know what? He's the best dad I've seen in media in a long time because he's like, you know what? You're a dreamer. I'm a dreamer, bro. It happens, man.
Yeah.
And mom's like, what the fuck was that? What was that?
Yeah, like, because at first he's like, oh, yeah, my cousin, he had his nose in sci-fi magazines all the time, just like Earl.
Right, and mom's like, and I bet he's digging ditches right now. A very productive and useful position in life, that we need.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And he's like, no, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
He got a med degree.
He loved that sci-fi stuff. He went right into med school and just kept going with it.
Holy shit, you could inspire kids instead of just terrify them? What?
Yeah, mom's not happy about that, and we pretty much cut straight from that to like the kids in their rooms after dinner, or they have a room together. They've got two separate beds, and Dad strolls in, and he's like, yeah, I get it. When I was young, I wanted to be a famous actor. I moved out to Hollywood for a little bit. I tried, but it just didn't work. Yeah, it just didn't work, and I gave up too soon, and I kind of regret that, and I want better for you all. Like, I want you to never give up on your dreams. I often dream about when I arrived in Hollywood, and I looked up on that hill and saw that beautiful Hollywood sign, and I don't think I'm ever going to get to see it again.
Right.
And I want you all to pursue what your passions in life. So yeah, very cool.
But if you go for it, go with everything you've got. Pretty much is what he tells them, and that's cool.
Yeah,
yeah. We like supportive parents.
Yeah, and we find out he's a truck driver, so he's kind of in and out of their lives a little bit. The nature of the job and everything. But on his most recent, route, he picked up a couple of copies of Famous Monsters magazine that he gives to the boys, which is also super cool and supportive.
Hell yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I would have killed for that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then we cut to the full moon, and Earl and the brother are planning on making history, and the brother actually calls him master in real life.
Yeah, they're cosplaying the Frankenstein thing super hard, which is cute.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Also, that probably is going to change once they hit puberty, right?
Right.
It's going to be like, let's not do that.
yeah. But so yeah, there's a lightning storm, and they've got an idea. So, or they are going to finally do the plan, which is that they have collected a chicken heart from dinner, presumably.
We're going to put that in the scarecrow, and it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. And
Because science.
Yeah, and the younger brother Larry, he's like, but is he gonna act like a man or like a chicken since we gave him a chicken heart? And Earl's like, no, he'll be a man. He's gonna be a Frankenstein monster. It's gonna be great.
In Diogenes, right?
Yeah.
Behold the man.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, but then they go back in, and when it starts storming, and they just go back to reading their magazines, right?
Yeah, they kind of they hook him up to a lightning rod, and they're just like, we'll watch from the window. It's raining. We're not going to sit out in the rain for this science project.
Right. How dare we actually monitor what's going on?
Yeah.
Don't you know about science? Anyway, but yeah, we then get a cute scene with mom and dad. Mom's tracing something down the dad's arm, and she's like, maybe you should go to the doctor about this.
Yeah.
Where are those four shadows coming from? Motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's specifically been having pain in one arm, and like he thinks it's just like muscle pains from driving the big rig. And yeah,
Which that is a demanding job, right? Mm-hmm. You're having to sit in one position all day, and you're getting jostled around.
Yeah. And yeah, they're flirty, they're real playful with each other, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go out to the garage and tinker a little bit. And she's like, there's just a bunch of junk out there, it's no good. And he's like, but it's relaxing to me. Let me go play out there for a little bit, and then I'll come back and we'll play a little bit in here.
That's right. Yeah. She's like, all right, but you hurry back now.
Yeah. Okay. Mom can't resist that Burt Reynolds charm.
I mean, who can really?
Yeah. So he goes out to the shed, and he sees the kids, science experiment, and he just kind of laughs. Like he loves the ingenuity of these kids.
But he also has a horribly wonderful idea, or wonderfully horrible idea. The same one I would have exactly had.
Absolutely. This is a classic dad prank. So good. Mm-hmm. So the kids have dozed off. They're supposed to be watching the progress of their experiment, but obviously they're kids. And then suddenly, I think, is it Larry wakes up, and he looks out the window, and there's their monster looking right in at them.
It is alive.
Yep. So they both scream, and I think Larry runs out, and Earl.
Yeah, Larry's the brave one.
Yeah,
because Earl's the smart one, but he is a little cowardly in this case.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, Larry gets outside, and like the monster. Like, does it like fall on him or something? Like he sees it move again, but then it's quickly revealed.
Well, the dad sneaks up and like moves its arm to where it sets its hand on his head.
Okay, yeah.
And the kid's like, and he's like, gotcha.
Yeah. It's just Dad just playing around.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I knew that was you all along, Dad. Right? That's what the kid says.
Yeah, and he's like, let's go find where your brother's hiding. I'm sure I scared him pretty bad.
Right. He's like, oh yeah, you did. You got him good.
Yeah.
So then the next day, the kids it's like they're working on some boards.
Yeah, I thought they were building a playhouse or something, like a
treehouse.
Yeah, they're nailing boards together, and then
no, these kids are cooler than that.
Yeah, they say they're working on a present for Dad, and then we have
this is when we get Kenny, the cool kid, the kid that fucks. Oh well, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. Ignore that completely.
Yeah,
but it's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling. He's got a girl with him, and both of the brothers are like, "Who is this?" And he's like, "It's
that's my girlfriend."
Yeah, it's Karen from Ohio. We're going together." And Larry's like, "Going where?" And Earl's like, "It's his girlfriend. Come on."
Yeah. They're doing things, stupid.
Yeah. So they end up heading back towards their houses a little later, and they're kind of discussing I think they're like pushing their bikes, And for Halloween, the drive-in is playing Night of the Living Dead, and so they're like, "You want to
sneak in?"
Yeah. Obviously, our moms won't let us go, but we'll sneak in later. And so, yeah, everybody's on board. This sounds like a great plan. And then we get the kids split up. The two brothers go inside to wash up for dinner, and then the camera pans backwards from where they came, and we see up on a hill they have made the Hollywood sign for their dad.
For their dad. That's adorable.
Yeah, when I saw,
and then we get like a brief shot of him like standing out in the in front of it in the middle of the full moon, looking all Burt Reynoldsy and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, this movie is definitely going to end up tugging at my heartstrings. Like, this is a sentimental movie for sure. And we go right.
Then we get the royalty-free Monster Mash.
yeah. I said the Monster Mash we have at home. I think it's called like "Call Me Frankenstein" or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got the song playing as again the dad is helping the kids. They're doing their Halloween costumes. Larry's going to be a mummy.
Earl's going to be Frankenstein.
Yeah, they're like making a paper mache mask for him. Mom comes in. She's having a good time. She's dancing to the song. She's taking pictures of them working together. It's all very sweet. And then we go straight from that to the kids trick-or-treating. We see them walking around the neighborhood, and this is the shot I was talking about. Like, it's just...
the E.T. moment.
Yeah, wide shot of the suburbs, kids walking up and down the streets, like cul-de-sacs, not having to worry about traffic. Little kids holding their parents' hands, the older kids just wandering alone. It's just, it's very, very nostalgic if you're, of our age, for sure.
Right. Well, there was no kids stealing other kids' candy, so I don't know about that. Because that was the thing.
Yeah. So then we have a little later, they're sneaking through the fence at the drive-in to watch. Of course, this is... Not everybody knows Night of the Living Dead is like the most public domain movie ever because they failed to do the rights correctly, and so it shows up on TVs and horror movies all over the place because it's easy to do.
I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't you? Right? It's out there.
Yeah, and it's a fucking classic. So like, why not put something great? And I mean, you could probably find some other public domain trash, but the zombie.
This is high quality.
Yeah. Right. So there, yeah.
But the kids are like, hey, we need popcorn and soda, right? That's what you got to have at these drive-in movies.
Yeah, but they don't have any money and they don't want to get caught and kicked out. But Ryan Gosling, Kenny, has a plan. So he borrows Earl's mask and
he's going to do everything he can to get caught and kicked out, right?
Yeah, he goes, he finds a car where there's this couple making out, and there's the nice little tray with the popcorn and the soda right there. He can grab it super easily. But he just kind of like stands there and watches them make out for a while until the girl sees him and screams. Right. And then he grabs the stuff and runs away.
But also, why wouldn't he just go in and like buy concessions? Like, because the people at the concession stand are not the people who sell you the tickets.
Yeah, they don't care.
Like, they're out in another booth out off the like highway or whatever.
Yeah. And so they end up, they're all they're enjoying their popcorn and soda, but of course moments later we get the first instance of the police officer sheriff character who is like
Gonzalez.
Yeah, he's not like, he's definitely like an authority figure and like a roadblock to the kids all the time, but he's not really portrayed as like a dick.
Right.
Like he's like, all right, kids, I know you snuck in, hop in the car, I'm going to take you home. Like he's
right. He's like the town dad versus the ACAB. Right.
Yeah. So when they get home, they get to the brother's house, and Kenny's mom is there instead of their mom, and she's like, "Oh, we've been worried sick. Where have you been?" And they're like, it's fine. We're just seeing a movie. We're all okay. She's like, No. Right. Your dad is in the hospital. He had a heart attack.
We got to go get you there now.
Yeah. So,
oh no!
So they rush to the hospital, and it's like the kids want to get in to see their dad, but then a doctor comes out, and it's one of those, you don't get the dialogue, but it's too late.
Well, they see the mom crying, and they're like, "Oh shucks."
Yeah, yeah. And so this, obviously this is heartbreaking for the kids and stuff, but they do a pretty good job of like, they don't dwell on this too much. We cut straight from the hospital to a graveside service where we get maybe 30 seconds of just like dialogueless shots of them, with the funeral, and
they're wearing awfully 90s clothes for the 70s movie, right?
Yeah. And then we see a shot of their fake Hollywood sign again, which is more heartbreaking than the funeral footage. Really, it's just they went to all this trouble and he's not he's not there.
He didn't get to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. He was eating up the scenery on that one shot, though. I think he enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. At least he got to see it. If he had never gotten to see it, that would have just been cruel.
But then Earl finds a picture of Dad, and then he remembers the time that they came together and made some plans about a Frankenstein monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. they like because so like it's the dad tinkers in the shed, but it had never really been explicitly stated until now that like he thinks of himself as an inventor. He's like, you know, putting things. It's not like he's not Dean making art from Iron Giant. He's building contraptions. But Larry's like, well, if you can do that, I mean, could you, Frankenstein was an inventor. Could you like do a Frankenstein? And he's like, oh totally, for sure. And they're like, all right, let's do it. And he's like, we got to come up with plans first. So he gets out some paper and he draws up a mad science lab.
Yeah. Not much more, just the image of the mad science lab, right?
Mm-hmm. And so then we cut to like later on that evening. The brothers are sitting down in front of the TV watching Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows, man.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I thought about that.
Yeah. So they're I think they were, they're obviously a poor family, and they were already probably kind of latchkey kids, but now they don't have the dad, so mom's got to go work late, and they're going to be left alone. So she's got
another shift at the diner.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Which so the parallels between this and Iron Giant, there's a lot of them. It's kind of weird actually.
Yeah.
And they,
this one has an extra brother though.
Yeah.
One brother.
So they're gonna have to fix dinner for themselves and all that. And then we just get more the second of the fantasy scenes of Earl kind of imagining them in various monster movies.
But in this one, they're in Night of the Living Dead.
Yep. And as the zombies are breaking in and peeking through the windows and everything, their horrible teacher is amongst them.
Sure, why not? Right?
Yeah,
makes sense.
But it looks like this one, I think this isn't, the previous one was like a daydream. This one's like an actual nightmare sort of thing. Like Earl wakes up, sits up in bed, we all got attacked by zombies.
He was having the dream when he was supposed to, I guess, right?
Yeah. But so then we see him down in the kitchen. Looks like he's maybe flipping through that famous Monsters magazine, eating cereal.
And his mom's not having it though. She's like, "No, you need to study.
Mm-hmm.
You've not done as great a job as you should be doing. Mm-hmm. You're just reading these comic books. They're fantasy. They're garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, he's like, "No, I'm doing great. It's just I'm getting poor conduct marks because my teacher sucks."
Yeah. All my grades are great. By
the way, I'm glad they phased that conduct bullshit out by the time I was in school, because man, woo.
But yeah,
it hit me hard.
I think the mom, we already knew the mom was kind of having some feelings about this, but I think now she's overwhelmed. She's a single mom now, and she's like, I wish
you got to do two jobs as a parent instead of one.
Yeah, right? She's like, it'd be nice to have some help around the house, but I get, and she's washing dishes kind of angrily. And she's like, if it doesn't matter if your teacher's mean or not, you're a kid, so you do what you're told. That's what your job is. If your father was, and then Earl cuts her off. It's like, if father was here, what would he do?
Right. And then she's like, he was a dreamer just like you.
Yeah.
Once again, calling that back.
Yeah, but it never got him anywhere. And Earl's like, but he was happy. He had a good life with us. That's all that really matters.
Now she's delivering a toxic message here. Happiness doesn't pay the bills. I mean, sure, but also if you were happy enough to live comfortably,
yeah. I mean, they
that's all right.
They did have a good family. They may have been scraping to get by or whatever, but they seemed in love, the parents, and they love their kids and everything. But yeah, I think she's just broken at this point. She tells him, "Give up on your dreams and grow up,"
right?
Which is
fuck that noise.
Yeah. Brutal.
Never. Yeah.
But we right away are cut to a scene that shows Larry's Earl's not giving up on his dreams. We've got another. This is basically the Wolfman.
Right. Beat for beat, just about.
Yeah. So we have Larry playing a hunter who has shot this werewolf to rescue this screaming girl.
Right.
And the werewolf, turns back into a human, and it's Earl.
Oh no!
And he's like, "Yeah, it was your fiance all along, and my friend."
I'm so upset that I didn't listen to him.
Yeah, and we see that this time again. This is happening during school, so he is.
Nose goes to the circle.
Yep.
But she asks if he's happy now. What a. I don't want to say it, but.
Yeah, she's just a bad teacher. I mean, she is not not fostering this kid's creativity. I realize that there are certain educational standards that you have to live up to, and you have to do, they have to take the tests and the whatever and all that. But this kid, he's clearly bored. He needs more interesting things.
Stimulation, yeah.
Yeah, and he needs, opportunities to use his creativity rather than, having to find ways to sneak it into his day.
Well, you see, this teacher came from probably the McCarthy School of Education, in which control is more important than actual education.
Yeah.
Now we're suffering for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Purdue. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's like The Wall, right? This is when The Wall came out.
Yeah.
Teachers leave those kids alone.
Absolutely, yeah. So then we have, later on, Kenny is talking to Karen, and he's like, I'm really worried about Earl and Larry. Larry's got to get his tonsils taken out, and Earl is really upset about it because Larry's going to have to stay at the hospital for a while, and that's where their dad died.
Yep. Obviously traumatic, right? For Earl.
Yeah. And Karen's like, well, we should try to get him to come out and do something tonight and not, sit.
Go to the carnival.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But we cut from that to Earl visiting Larry. He's telling him another, spooky story, and this is the classic, the Hook Lover's Lane story that, everybody's heard this story. And then Kenny comes by and is like, hey, I know you all are nervous, and I know, Larry, you got to stay in bed to be prepared for the surgery tomorrow, but Earl, you want to go to the carnival, get away, clear your mind a little bit. And Earl's kind of like, I don't think my mom will let me. But we don't get the scene of them talking, but we just have them leaving, but they're like, see, I told you your mom would be fine. She wants you to get out too. So she's not a bad mom. She's just dealing with a lot, maybe not doing the best job at some points, but she's not cruel or unkind. She's just,
no, she'll come around.
Yeah.
Just give her time.
Yeah.
Right. So we then cut to Kenny talking about flirting with the nurses in front of his girlfriend. Not a classy thing to do. Don't do that. But then we go to a very 90s carnival with very 90s carnival attendees.
Yeah.
The shirt Ryan Gosling is wearing, I swear to you, there were kids in my high school wearing that exact same shirt.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's this scene or another scene, but he has one of those ponchos that were really popular for a while that people called drug rugs.
Right, because the kids who played hacky sack wore those.
Yeah.
And
and we do get a great bit here where the three of them are walking around together, and then we see the Tunnel of Love ride, and Earl's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and Kenny's...
I love how Kenny's like, no, you don't. You don't want to be alone with your girlfriend? What is wrong with you, kid? What's going on?
Yeah. Earl's like, no, I do. I'm gonna... And so he leaves, and presumably they do go get on the Tunnel of Love, but Earl does not go to the bathroom. He wanders around, and he finds Xandor's Hall of Mysteries.
We'll sync that up better later. But yeah, we have the Barker who's like, hey, you want to see Frankenstein's original monster, kid?
Yeah, he's been preserved.
You gotta go for it.
Yeah, he's been preserved here for 180 years. And, Earl, obviously, Frankenstein's his favorite of the monsters, it seems like. So he's very into that. And inside we get a monster that I felt like, to me, it most reminded me of the creature from the Edison silent film. It was has really wild, teased out, crazy hair.
The head almost goes into the deltas or whatever.
Yeah, it's a real bulky guy with just wild man hair. And this,
he has a neck, but only from the front.
Yeah. And there's a little sign there that says that the circus bought this from someone in Budapest in the 1940s, and they've had it since then. So,
1948. That's a weird year that you chose there, guys. That was the fall of a certain group of people that have sprung up, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then we cut from that to later on, the circus is over. Earl is sitting by the side of the road on his bike watching all the circus vehicles head out of town.
Yeah. They're just packed up and left the day after, right?
But in the very last truck in the caravan is a crate containing the Frankenstein monster that rattles its way off the truck and falls into the road. Just a great lucky coincidence for Earl.
I honestly this would never happen, right? Not in this kind of truck. You would absolutely have to see behind you. Be like, oh, I lost something. I gotta go back for it.
Yeah. But he ends up, he goes back home and gets his dad's truck. And he's
because his dad taught him how to drive. He actually reminisces about that.
Yeah, it's like a 40s era, like I think a Chevy truck, but he goes.
It's like a bootleg truck, bootlegger truck.
Yeah, so he goes and picks up Kenny, and Kenny's like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? Like you can't be driving a truck around town." And Earl's like, "Just get in the truck. I promise this is worth it. You want to see this."
I love how Kenny's like, "Dude, if this is another UFO hoax." I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Like his friend has been pulling him around for this goofy shit all of his life.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
So but eventually Kenny does get in the truck, and they go out, and he shows him the crate, and it's like, look, it's the Frankenstein monster. We got to keep it. And Kenny's like, we need to call somebody. Somebody's got to pick this up.
Yeah. That's kind of theft if we keep it, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
And Earl's like, no, I'm gonna bring it back to life. This is gonna be like I'm doing the good thing here.
Right. They lost it. I have it. Possession is 9 tenths of the law.
Yeah.
We're gonna make millions off of this bad boy, especially when it's alive. And Katie's like, "Oh no, you've gone off the deep end, bro.
Yeah.
You're gonna try and resurrect this thing? It's a dummy. You're nuts."
Yeah. So they end up having to stop for gas on the way home, which is hilarious. And the pump attendant's just like, "Sure, I'll fill up." Like does not care that these are two kids.
Right, but they're like, "Oh, our dad's really sick. We gotta take him to the hospital."
Yeah, and the guy looks at the monster and is like, "Oh yeah, your dad looks rough. You need to hurry up."
Right. By the way, I thought this actor, who the actor's name is Jeff Osterhage, I thought this was Walter Goggins for a moment. I was like, this dude has strong Goggins energy, you know?
Yeah. And I think then we see, like, back at home, Earl's getting some stuff ready for the experiment. He's like working up, what he's going to do.
Oh no, they're at the radio tower where they're going to revive the monster.
That's right. Yeah. And Kenny's like, the Frankenstein story is fake, right? Like this is not, and this is a dummy. Like nothing is going to happen.
Right. Earl's like, "Let me cut a piece off of this bad boy and we'll see if it's real or not."
Yeah.
Kenny's like, "Nah, I'm good, bro."
Yeah. Earl's like, just wait till the lightning storm comes. Then I'll show you.
Apparently in that area during the fall, like lightning storms happen every week.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. So yeah,
sure.
And then so we cut from there to the police station where the same cop we saw earlier is getting an earful from the owner of the circus, who is pissed that somebody has stolen his Frankenstein.
Right, "You and your townies stole my Frankenstein monster. I've had this in my family for generations. It's part of my culture. My culture buying stuff and putting it on display, I guess."
Yeah, and the officer's like, yeah, I'll look into it. I mean, I'll see what I can do, basically. Like, he's not very committed to this, but he also wants to get this guy out of his office.
Yeah. So then we get like a montage kind of the kids like putting all the pieces together, and like Earl is doing most of this by himself, and he's building all the science equipment by himself.
Yeah.
Like this kid's dedicated.
Yeah, he's definitely learned a lot from his dad. And the end of the montage, we just have him back at home in bed, and he's looking up at this Frankenstein poster on his wall, like, yeah, I'm going to be the next Frankenstein.
It's all coming together, right?
Yeah.
So then he goes to visit Larry in the hospital the next day, and Larry's like, "Okay, I want another story. Give me another story real quick."
Yeah.
And Earl tells him about the vampire brides of Dracula.
Yeah, he does check it. So Larry has a roommate, Stan, and Earl's like, "I'm going to tell him a scary story. Is that cool with you?" And Stan's like, "Hell yeah, let's do it. Like, I'm in."
Yeah.
So
he's like, "I love scary stories."
Yeah. So the story, Larry and Earl are vampire slayers. They go into like a
Van Helsing and Arminius.
But they go to a windmill that is straight out of Frankenstein, where they get like attacked by the sexy vampire brides.
But they also get Dracula. We get a Dracula in this.
Yeah, and Dracula throws Earl out of the window of the windmill. He like catches on the blade, similar to how Henry does in Frankenstein. And there's like a lower window where Larry was working on something, and he like pulls him in, so he's okay. And then
but they get back to killing the vampires because it's almost sunrise, and that's when they're going to be weakest.
Yeah. But then the story gets interrupted by the fucking teacher who is now in the hospital. They just can't get away from this bitch.
Legitimately the worst, that you would actually interrupt a kid telling a story to his brother and yelling at him for being an unhealthy influence. because he's entertaining his fucking sick brother.
Yeah, she's like, this is a hospital full of sick and suffering people, of which I am one, and you're making things miserable for all of us. I'm gonna go report you to the head
are we gonna get? Yeah. She's gonna tell the teacher on her, being the teacher. But I'm like, are we gonna get some sympathy for this lady? Does she like have cancer? The C word, you know? Like, is she sick? No, she's even worse. Like, they were like, we could give her sympathy, but we're going to double down on she's the worst.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So once she leaves, Stan and Earl are chatting, and Stan's like, I've seen that movie that you base your story on. It's great. You know, your story was really good. I love the movie. I love scary movies. And that teacher sucks. She's a witch. You know,
I thought the nuns at my private school, were awful, right?
Yeah. And
so, hey, we know Stan has money, so there you go.
Yeah. And then we also, so they're like, well, what are you in here for? Like, you seem fine. And he's like, I am. I'm just fat, and my parents don't like it, and they keep sending me to different medical facilities to try to cure me of my fatness.
This was a real thing. Even at the time, this was actually topical. Like, they had the quote-unquote, I don't like saying fat camps, but, I mean, that's what they were called at the time.
Yeah.
And that was right before the whole conversion camps became a thing. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's like we just doubled down on being awful and got worse at. I mean, we got better at being awful. This is the best way to say it.
But I really I love Stan as a character. Like, he's
a great guy.
He's super body positive. He's just like, yeah, I'm fat. It's fine. Like, it's just, this is me. I'm just gonna be me. I don't care. You know. And it's like, this would have come out after Monster Squad, and he feels like a much better version of Horace. You know, like a Horace who's not ashamed of himself. He's just like, yeah, I'm me. I'm gonna be like, as this goes, you know, he's a cool kid. He flirts with Kate. Like, he's not ashamed at all of his body or who he is, and it's really
well. Not only that, but they don't make him the stupid fat kid, right? Because instantly he pieced together. He's like, hey, you stole the Frankenstein monster, right? And Earl's like, no, and he's like, bullshit. Yeah, you did. You're into this stuff just like me. I know I would have stolen it if it was me.
Yeah, and finally Earl's like, yeah, okay, fine, yes, I did.
All right, I want in, Stan says. Yeah. Whatever you're doing, I want to be part of it.
Yeah. And we go straight from that to the teacher, who I guess overheard this, or maybe just is suspicious enough. But she calls the cops and is like, I want to report, I think I know who stole that monster. He's a student of mine, Earl, and, you know, I'm doing this for his own good.
Yeah, he's uncontrollable. That's the problem. I can't control him because has his own, like, independent thoughts. That's awful. That's the worst.
Yeah. And so sure enough, then we get the officer showing up at the family house as they're all eating dinner. And he's like, we gotta report the suspicions that you might have been involved in the missing monster. And
right, Kenny's eyeballing Earl like, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
This guy.
And he's smooth. He's just like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, well, okay, fine, but I need to look around. I want to, inspect.
And he looks around and sees all the monster memorabilia, and he's like, I mean, you would be the kid, right?
Yeah.
If anyone did it, it would be you.
Yeah, and Earl's like, no, I mean, I like Frankenstein, but and I saw the thing at the circus, but I didn't steal it. I'm just a kid. How am I going to carry a giant monster? Like, that's not going to happen.
Right, that's silly. I'd have to drive an old, like, beat-up 1940s Chevy to pick it up. That's weird.
Yeah. But the cop is kind of like, he's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't see any evidence to prove anything. I see you like Frankenstein, and that makes you a juicy suspect, but I don't see anything to indicate you did anything. So he leaves.
Right. Kenny's like, dude, you're a hell of a liar. Like, what? You're just dropping them.
Yeah, and Earl's like, I don't like to lie, but I mean, we got to protect our project here, right?
We got to do it for science.
Yeah. And then the mom comes out and she's like, all right, well, apparently Larry is ready to be picked up from the hospital, so we're gonna go get him. So they head there, and when they get there, Earl's like, Stan, what the fuck, man? Like, you narked on me? And Stan's like, nah, man.
Like, never.
No.
Not in a billion years.
Yeah, I want to be in on this. I don't want it to get ruined.
Literally, this is the coolest thing that would have ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we have later on the whole family, both brothers and Kenny, they're all eating dinner. And Mom is like, this is my only night off. I'm fucking exhausted. can there just be no bullshit tonight? Like, just no trouble.
Right.
And Earl's like, yeah, of course, Mom. Not only that, why don't you go rest now? I'll do the dishes. We'll clean up the kitchen. You deserve some rest, Mom.
She's pleasantly surprised by that, right? She's like, oh, well, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
deal.
going to go take a bath. That's great.
Yeah.
But then while Earl is doing the dishes, it starts raining, and he's like, all right, guys, we got to, like...
Go time.
Yeah. So he just fucking leaves the water running in the sink. He's like, you guys get to the tower, get everybody together. I'll be there as soon as I can. So he runs...
I got to go get Stan.
Yeah, he runs straight to the hospital to do an escape attempt for Stan. And they end up getting stopped by a nurse who's like, what are you doing? And again, Earl, smooth talker, he's like, oh, the doctor said he needed some fresh air, so I was just taking him outside. And the nurse is like...
Right, we get interrupted by that awful teacher, Purdue, being like, I'm hungry, where's my dinner?
Yeah. And so the two nurses are like, oh, man, this bitch again. Like,
right?
And
they're like, she's only in here for an ingrown toenail, which is the worst. It's like, that's almost cosmetic. Like, I get it's painful, but fuck.
Yeah. And they're like, what do you say? Well, let's go get a cup of coffee and let her dinner get cold. Because fuck this bitch, basically.
Right.
And
as they do, Earl's like, I have a genius idea. I won't just leave like I should, but I'm going to pour pepper on her food. Bah! Yeah. She's an old white woman. She can't stand that.
Yeah. And he stirs it up. And it's great because it's like the nurse was like, yeah, you can go outside for a minute, but it's about to rain, so come in. But then when she comes back to get the tray, she sees him doing this and is just like, I'll take that. And she knows exactly what he did, and she doesn't go replace it. She's just like, yeah, I'm going to give this to her. And yeah, then...
Coolest nurse ever.
Yeah. And so, yeah, of course, at that point, Earl and Stan leave. And...
Mom comes out of the shower. She's like, thank you guys for taking care of... Oh, shit. She's the suds overflowing the sink, and she's like, Earl!
Yeah.
Like Dennis or whatever.
Yeah. So this bit is kind of montagey again. We have Karen. She's outside putting laundry on the clothesline or taking it off the clothesline. And she's like, she sees a storm in the distance. She's like, oh, those boys better not start without me. So,
right. They're doing this without me. Those sons of bitches.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the officer is watching the news, gets the weather report, and is like, oh, I know what's happening. So he rushes across town to Earl's mom.
And then we see Purdue coughing on her peppered food.
Yeah.
Over peppered.
Yeah, and they're like trying to give her water, and she's like coughing and spitting it everywhere, and the nurses they're kind of enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. They're the anti-nurse ratchets, right?
Yeah, they're great. And we have Earl arriving at the lab. He's showing all the boys, everything he's done. And Stan's like, I got a gift for you that I got from the hospital. And he gives him a fucking lab coat, and it's awesome. Like, yeah. And so Larry's got his little outfit on, and he blows up a balloon and tucks it under his shoulder, so he looks like a hunchback. They're just really leaning into this. Meanwhile...
Yeah, they're all kitted out, right?
Yeah.
Scrubs.
Meanwhile, we've got the mom and the cop. They're driving around together trying to figure out where Earl would be. And, the cop's like, I don't really care about the dummy. The circus guy was kind of a jerk. But, like, I think I know what they're doing, and it's dangerous. Like, I'm worried about these kids playing with lightning. I don't want an electrocuted kid on my hands. Do you have any idea where they might go? And this is where, I think this is kind of what breaks the mom, where she's just like, I don't because I don't pay attention to my kid, and he doesn't trust me. Everybody that he trusts is with him right now, doing whatever they're doing, and I have no idea where it is.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, the good news is, at this time, they do see Karen riding on her bike, and they're like, that's one of the kids that they all hang out together with, so we'll follow her.
Yeah, there's no other reason she'd be biking in the rain than if they're up to something. So then we go back to the lab, where, Earl's giving instructions. They need to fly the kites, and Kenny's like, kites? And he's like, yeah, haven't you seen Bride of Frankenstein? The fucking kites. It's important.
Right. He's like, oh, this is where the science happens. This is the Ben Franklin stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah. But so that from here, we get a lot of arguments with the kids. Like, Kenny's like, I can't get kites to fly in a building. This isn't a movie. And Earl's like, okay, well, I got another thing. And he raises this giant lightning rod up into the sky.
He was ready for Kenny's ultimate betrayal, right? Of just not doing what he wanted him to do. Meanwhile, Stan is getting he's like, "Hey, Karen, how you doing, girl? My name's Stan. I got money. What's up? Let's go."
Yeah, and it's working because Karen's pissed that Kenny didn't let her know they were doing this. She just had to figure it out on her own. So yeah, we've got tension between Kenny and Karen. And he's like, "What was I supposed to do? Call your mom and be like, hey, we're doing a Frankenstein experiment. Send Karen over."
Right.
And but Karen's like, "Wait, what are you all actually? This is crazy. You all are insane."
Larry's trying to get Earl to lock up Karen because she's a girl. Girl shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
We should be doing STEM with us. Ew.
Yeah. And Earl's like, "Insane? Was Einstein insane? Was Boris Karloff insane?"
Right. I mean, maybe, but, that's a different thing altogether, right?
Yeah. But finally, so it's kind of chaotic, and then there's, the storm is really kicking up, and Earl's like, "All right, we got to do this. Everybody cool it. Now's the time to, get in, do what we're here for." And that's around the same time that his mom and the police officer arrive.
Right, but that's also when the lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we get a big explosion. The electricity is passing through the lightning rod into the monster, but nothing seems to happen. And it's like, are we getting the fake out? Is he going to move?
Nope, we don't even get the fingers moving, man, as we pan out.
Yeah.
So this is a dummy.
Yeah, in fact, they're like, "All right, we got to go to the station. You've been caught." So the kids all go in the police car, and Earl's like, "I'm sorry, Mom. I shouldn't have done this, but I couldn't resist the temptation."
Yep.
So, it's kind of like Earl, they're kind of meeting in the middle here. Earl's realizing that there's a certain level of fantasy that's too much, it's too dangerous, and the mom's kind of figuring out that some of this is okay.
Right, it's just kids being kids, right, to a point.
Yeah.
But then we cut to the next day, and they brought up Earl in front of a judge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fun.
And the teacher is there, and she is ranting. She's talking about Earl is sick and twisted. She recommends
his problem is he's a dreamer, and he's going to develop a sense of weirdness, and that weirdness is going to infect other kids. It's like, oh, being independent is going to mess with those other kids. Man, I know exactly where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. I know who you would have voted for in the last couple of votes.
Yep,
I got you.
And she's like, he needs to go to a reform school, and I care about him, so I'll do everything I can to write a recommendation.
Right. This is for his good, not my comfort. Mm-hmm. And Mama's like, oh, you bitch. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and
she's
the teacher's even like, no, I don't think it speaks poorly of your parenting. I think he's just plain bad. You couldn't have done anything. He's just a bad seed.
Right. And then Mom's like, oh, I was so stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't notice, I didn't listen to him because you're awful. You're the worst.
Yeah, he wasn't lying about you. You're terrible.
He's not a criminal.
Yeah.
He's not a criminal. I'm not going to punish him for dreaming. Mm-hmm. That's not a crime. So.
Yeah, and she's like, I want to speak out on his behalf, and the judge is like, all right, but I want you to take this seriously. And she's like, I do. A few days ago, I might have agreed with this woman, but now I realize that he is a dreamer like his father, and that she is trying to squash his personality and his creativity so that he's more controllable, and I've been complicit in helping, and I don't want to do that anymore. He's a good kid. It's a good thing that he can escape into his imagination. He's had a rough life. He lost his dad. We're poor. It's great that he has this thing that gives him some fulfillment in life. Yes, I will punish him. He did a dangerous thing, but he's not getting punished for having an imagination.
Right. And I like how immediately the teacher's like, I would like to take the moment to defend myself because I feel like my rights were infringed upon. Mm-hmm. Bullshit, lady. You said this kid was a menace when he was just a daydreamer, and now because you got called on it, you feel bad?
Yeah. And the judge, the judge is like, he's just like, nah, get the fuck out of here. You're
right.
I'm done with you. And she's like, well, I never. And storms out.
Right, but he's like, deputy, what do you think about this? And the deputy's like, yeah, he deserves to be punished, at least to some degree, for sure.
But then there's another cop runs over and is saying, sir, the monster is missing.
What was that? The monster's missing?
Yeah, because they when they left, he was like, I'll just send somebody to get it the next day. It's no rush. It's fine out here. Yeah. But it's gone. And the judge is like, well, that's a mystery for another day. I don't really care about that. We're here to talk about Earl.
Right.
And, the officer's like, yeah, Earl's a good kid. Let his mom deal with the punishment. It's fine. And the judge is like, okay, Earl, I want to hear from you now. you put your brother and all of your friends in a lot of danger for a silly fantasy. What?
That was irrational and like pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and Earl's like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm sad. Like, I lost my dad, and I keep thinking about how he had all these dreams that he never got to pursue. And
I didn't want the same thing to happen to me and my friends.
Yeah. He kept telling us he wanted better for us, and I wanted to do that, like for myself and to honor his memory.
Yeah.
And I just kind of got.
He gave Stan something to talk about for years. Like,
yeah,
Stan will never shut up about
Hell
that.
yeah. And so then we have later we're in another of the daydreams, and it's a mummy story with Earl and Larry like fighting off this mummy.
But wait, somebody just called out cut.
Yeah.
This is a movie set.
Yeah. And so he's like, come over here, boys. And the Larry and Earl walk over, and
it's obviously Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, he's silhouetted to start with, but he's holding the director bullhorn and everything. And he's got notes. He's like, this is all about this is scary, so you need to show that you're afraid, but you're also
brave.
Yeah, you're adventurers, so you got to show both sides of this. And he kind of gives them advice or whatever, and he's like, "All right, let's get back to the movie." And then Earl's like, "Dad?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Are you happy, Dad?" And he's like, "Yes. This is
everything I wanted to do."
Yeah. I've always wanted to paint my dreams on the silver screen, and now I'm getting the chance. And so then we see that Earl has sort of daydreamed this while looking at that picture of him and his dad.
They kind of get a chance to say, I love you one last time.
Yeah. And Mom strolls in, and she's like, so you're still grounded, but I was out at the shop and I saw this magazine and I thought you might like it. It's not it's some sort of sci-fi horror. It's not Famous Monsters this time, but it's something.
No.
And yeah, he's like, thanks, Mom. Like that, we're connecting. Like we're finally on the same page. And to kind of like,
I tell you what, I'll get around to painting the porch this weekend. Right?
Yeah, we didn't mention, but earlier that was a thing that the dad said he was going to do, and then obviously never got to do it.
Yeah.
So she's like, thanks, that'd be great. And then we just cut to out in that desert that we saw at the very beginning, the parched, cracked earth and everything, the Frankenstein monster just shambling along by himself in the middle of nowhere.
Right, as the royalty-free Monster Mash plays in the background, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the credits start rolling over it. But, I really it was a nice touch to do that, just add this little hint of magical realism. It might still just be Earl's imagination, or maybe it's not.
It could be.
Maybe they really did revive the monster, and he's just out there, living his life. And that's sort of encouraging. It's like this movie's just it's just heartwarming. It's just very charming. Yeah. It's hard not to love this. It's very sweet.
Yeah, I mean, the message is great. I love it. I love to see a parent actually stand by their child versus side with the teacher and be like, no, you're the worst kid ever. You're a menace because you dare to be different, right?
And it's nice having like this mom who's like dealing with some stuff and is not a perfect parent, but is learning. And because of that, like, the thing at the end where she's like, here's a magazine, and he's like, I'm going to paint the house. Like, this is them both learning together. Like, this is what the teacher was failing at. Like, if you give kids space for creativity, if you give kids an opportunity to explore what they're passionate about and keep them stimulated with interesting stuff, then they actually want to learn. And then everybody's benefiting. And yeah, the teacher is definitely completely missing this, but the mom figured it out, and that's really great.
Right, a lesson that parents and teachers still haven't learned yet, exactly. And of course, a lot of other people as well that don't even have kids, but somehow want to control them.
Yeah,
it's wild. Yep, but I mean, love the message. Yeah, it's definitely pulls on the heartstrings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this is one that because it's super old and just got if it's not actually public domain, it practically is. But yeah, it's just on archive.org. You can watch it for free there. Right. And yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we get to see Burt Reynolds in his like super daddy phase at the time, which is fun.
Yeah.
But and then baby Ryan Gosling. So
yep.
Oh, those times are wild. All right. Well, anything else we got to say about this one?
I think that's it.
All right. So, Anthony, I mean, we've had an Iron Giant. We've had Frankenstein and me. So let's get a little bit closer, a little bit more like family. Maybe we see Frankenstein's daughter?
Yeah. This is another one of the ones that's just like a classic, that like I didn't want us to do them all at the beginning, so we're just kind of interspersing them. This one's, I think, like from the 50s maybe. This is one that's often in conversations when people list like the best Frankenstein movies. It's a trashy exploitation one, but it's super fun.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And yeah, I've been, it's definitely one that I've been looking forward to talking about. So yep, I'm excited to finally get to it.
Yeah, from everything I'm seeing, it kind of looks like Frankenstein meets Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun one. So yeah, I'm looking for. It's been a long time since I've seen it too. So yeah, I can't wait.
All right. Well, Anthony, where can they find us, my friend?
So you can find us on all the socials at the Frankencast, including TikTok. You can also find us over on YouTube, and you can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. And of course, you can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're always doing new stuff. We're back to doing some Monsters content lately, but we just did an episode of Drunk History, which was super fun. There's just all kinds of great stuff over there. So we'd love to have you. And again, there's the free trial and all that. So pop in, see what you think, and you're welcome to stick around as long as you'd like.
I can promise you for a fact there is something to your taste over there, for sure.
100%.
Whatever that may be. All right. Well, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, then, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.